Well, good morning, everyone. MAG staff will now take roll call to ensure we have a quorum present for the meeting.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I'm going to go through the list of members. Make sure that you unmute and indicate whether you are present. So Steve Betts.
Here.
Thank you. Mike Cowley.
Here.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Crane.
Here.
Superintendent Donovan.
Present.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Edwards.
Present.
Thank you. James Griffith. Vice Mayor Hampton.
Here.
Thank you. Sintra Huffman. Councilmember Judd.
Present.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Keating.
Here.
Thank you. Jim Kenny.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor LaVault.
Morning, Denise, I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Governor Lewis. Councilmember Luna.
Present.
Thank you. Councilmember Malnar. Mike Markham.
Present.
Thank you, Mike. Councilmember McMahon.
Present.
Thank you. Councilmember O'Brien. Vice Mayor Oliphant.
I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Orson.
Present.
Thank you. Councilmember Pineda. Councilmember Rowe. I think I heard a here.
Right.
Okay, Mark Sanders.
Present.
Thank you. Todd Sanders.
Present.
Thank you. Councilmember September. Vice Mayor Smith.
Here.
Thank you. Marisa Walker. Bob Worsley.
Present.
Thank you. And Chair Hermosillo is here. And is there anybody that I missed or joined during roll call?
This is Councilmember Malner from Glendale.
Okay, thank you, Councilman. Anybody else?
Sintra is here.
Cynthia, thank you. Okay, anybody else? Okay, we have a quorum.
Great. A quorum is now present. I do want to note that all meeting attendees will enter muted. Phone-only attendees will need to press *6 to unmute at the beginning of the meeting, and if they are subsequently muted by the host. Please remember to mute when you are not speaking to create a positive experience for all attendees. And with that said, the meeting of the MAG Economic Development Committee is called to order. As a reminder, please remember to mute your phone when you are not speaking. All right, we will move to call to the audience. Members of the public were asked to submit written comments related to this meeting through the MAG website. Comments may be sent at any time leading up to the meeting, but must be received at least 1 hour prior to the posted start time for the meeting. This is the opportunity for the public to comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction that are not on the agenda or that are on the agenda for discussion and not for action. MAG staff, have we received any public comments?
We have not received any public comments for this item or any other item on the agenda.
Great. We will move forward with item 3 on the agenda. And that is approval of the August 3rd, 2021 Economic Development Committee meeting minutes. Does any member of the EDC have questions or comments on the minutes?
I'd make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion by Steve Betts. Is there a second?
Vice Mayor Smith, I motioned a second.
Okay. Okay, we have a first motion by Steve Betts, a second motion by Vice Mayor Smith. Is there discussion on the motion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor say aye. Or we'll have Denise do a roll call vote.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I'm going to go through the list of members again. Please indicate how you vote when I call your name. Steve Betts.
Yes.
Mike Crowell,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Crane,
Yes.
Superintendent Donovan,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Edwards,
Yes.
James Griffith, Vice Mayor Hampton,
Yes.
Sintra,
Yes.
Sintra, Councilmember Judd,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Keating, Jim Kenny,
Yes.
thank you, Mayor LaBelle,
Yes.
Governor Lewis, Councilmember Luna,
Aye.
thank you, Councilmember Melnar,
Yes.
Mike Markham,
Yes.
thank you, Councilmember McMahon,
Yes.
Councilmember O'Brien,
Yes.
thank you, Vice Mayor Oliphant,
Yes.
I see that Governor Lewis has joined the meeting. Mayor Osborne,
Aye.
Councilmember Pineda, Councilmember Rowe, Mark Sanders,
Yes.
thank you, Todd Sanders,
Aye.
thank you, Councilmember September, Vice Mayor Smith,
Yes.
thank you, Marisa Walker,
Aye.
thank you, Bob Worsley,
Yes.
and Chair, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember McMahon votes yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the agenda item has passed unanimously.
Great. The next item on the agenda is the draft MAG policy principles, a document that summarizes MAG's legislative positions and the agency's roles and responsibilities. Sapna Gupta, MAG Senior Policy Planner, will provide an update on the draft principles.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the Economic Development Committee. As the Chair stated, the MAG policy principles present MAG policy approaches for a wide range of its efforts, ranging from specific legislative items to the broader roles and responsibilities for the agency. We developed these policy principles a few years ago, and we update them and present them for a vote at this time of the year. Next slide, please. This brochure describes what the MAG agency is about. It is posted under the About Us section of the website, and this brochure has also been very useful in a number of ways, as I will discuss. The policy principles are currently formatted as a trifold brochure that we can leave behind after meetings, for example, with state legislators, local officials, or in congressional offices. It is a way to share the goals and the missions of the organization with the public and with its stakeholders, whether they are at the local, regional, state, or federal level of government, the nonprofit, and business sectors. Next slide, please. More importantly, this is an approved set of policy principles that the agency can draw upon. We revise this brochure annually, and if so something comes up during the course of the year, we have these policy principles that we can turn back to and proceed in a nimble and appropriate manner. Next slide, please. The updated policy principles have been in the agenda packet, and we hope that you've had a chance to review them. We would like to go over some of the changes in this update. We have updated the graphics to complement the language that we included last year on the enabling legislation for the sales tax continuation to fund future transportation projects. As you can see, the map that's been updated in the brochure shows the potential investments that would be funded. We've also added a graphic that shows the connection between infrastructure and employment in the region, and we've added a bullet under the About MAG section. Next slide, please. Regarding further updates and edits, we have combined the transportation policy and planning and transportation technologies and services sections under one transportation section. We've also updated other sections to reflect the work the agency is doing and will be doing this coming year. Next slide, please. Of note to the Economic Development Committee, we have updated the language to reflect the range of our work across local, regional, state, and beyond, and the range of organizations that we work and collaborate with. We've also updated the language to support the implementation of the expansion of the border crossing card. It was authorized as a pilot program under Homeland Security Spending Bill, and we have updated the language to reflect that development. Next slide, please. The section that used to be called Administration is now renamed General. We've added the additional statement to the first line. Before, it read that MAG is committed to prohibiting discrimination in the planning and delivery of our programs and initiatives. We've added that MAG is committed to equity, diversity, and inclusion. This new language reflects the work that we do in serving the public and with our members and stakeholders. Next slide, please. Madam Chair, members of the Economic Development Committee, this concludes my presentation. This item is on for recommendation for action with a recommendation for approval of the updated MAG policy principles. I wanted to note that the MAG policy principles will be presented for a vote to the Management Committee next week, followed by the Executive Committee on the 18th of this month, the Transportation Policy Committee on the 20th, and then finally to the Regional Council on the 27th of October. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gupta. Are there any questions from the membership at this time? Okay.
What is the any major? I mean, it looked like they're pretty administrative changes. Is there any major policy changes in here that you might have noticed, or different direction that you noticed as well?
Madam Chair, members of the Economic Development Committee, thank you for this question. There are no major policy changes. What we have done is updated and clarified the language. We've also, in some cases, simplified the language that was in the brochure before. As I mentioned, we've combined sections. We've shortened some sections to make it more accessible and legible. These policy principles are a guide internally as well as externally, and we wanted to make sure that it was accessible to people who are not familiar with MAG. So there's no major policy changes in this version.
Okay, yeah, I didn't notice anything, but I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss something. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hampton. MAG staff, were there any public comments on this item?
No public comments, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. With that said, could I have a motion to recommend approval of the draft MAG policy principles?
Motion to approve.
And
This is
Cintra?
Second.
David Luna, okay. Okay, we have a motion from Cintra Hoffman and a second from Councilmember David Luna. Is there discussion of the motion? Hearing none, we will have MAG staff. Would you please take a roll call vote at this time?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Please indicate how you vote when I call your name. Steve Betts.
Yes.
Thank you. Mike Cowley.
Yes.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Crane.
Yes.
Superintendent Donovan.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Edwards.
Yes.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Hampton.
Yes.
Thank you. Centra Hoffman.
Yes.
Thanks. Councilmember Judd.
Aye.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Keating.
Yes.
Thank you. Jim Kenny. Mayor Laval.
That was a yes for Jim Kenny, sorry.
No, that's okay. Thank you.
Yes, for Mike Laval.
Thank you, Mayor Laval. Governor Lewis.
Yes.
Okay, we got that. We do have a hard time hearing you, but I did make out the yes, Governor Lewis. So thank you.
Yeah, sorry, I dropped a couple of times.
Thank you.
So I'm sorry.
Okay, well, it seems like we have a bad connection there. Councilmember Luna.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Malnar.
Yes.
Mike Markham.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember McMahon.
Yes.
Councilmember O'Brien.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Oliphant.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Osborne.
Yes, and is that kind of like max headroom?
It sounds like it.
It does.
Okay, Councilmember Rowe.
Yes.
Thank you. Mark Sanders.
Yes.
Todd Sanders.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember September. Vice Mayor Smith.
Yes.
Thank you. Marisa Walker.
Yes.
Thank you. Bob Worsley
Yes.
and Chair Armatia, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Have I missed anybody?
This is Governor Lewis again. I don't know if you can hear me.
We can hear you better now. Yes.
Okay, yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The agenda item has passed unanimously. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. The next item on the agenda is a report from the American Indian Chamber of Commerce of Arizona. Nicholas Mazer and Ty James Largo with AICCAZ will provide this report.
Alrighty, good morning, and thank you so much to the MAG Economic Development Committee for inviting us to present today. We are honored to be here. My name is Nick Mazer, and I'm the current president of the American Indian Chamber of Commerce of Arizona. We exist to provide a pathway for business success by creating inclusive networks in and out of Indian country. Now let me introduce my co-presenter, also a board member. He is Ty James Largo. You may already know the name, but probably don't know the whole story. He is an ASU origin story and pilots the ranked and awarded #1 best place to work in all of Arizona. His advertising agency has helped elect presidents and also debuted national brands. Here is Ty James Largo.
Quite the entrance there. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for all these elected officials to take this time out to join us and hear from us. And I'm very honored to be able to speak to you and represent our Native American population and economic interests here. So next slide, please. So yes, I feel like, you know, we talk about minorities and like minority-owned businesses. It's interesting that we're like on an indigenous continent for my population, and yet we know so little about it. And to be honest with you, up until maybe 3 years ago when I joined the chamber, I also had to take that journey to learn more about who we are and what we do economically and how we impact and how sociologically too, like we contribute to our collective society. And I thought the best way to sort of introduce like our contributions is to talk about food. And I think that is an interesting thing where like if I invite a new neighbor to the neighborhood, and I love to invite them over for dinner. So next slide, please. So something that you're probably very familiar with, which is fry bread. But what you probably didn't know is that the Fry Bread House, which is a business here in Phoenix, is one of eight businesses in the entire country to have been designated as an American classic. So if you're not familiar with the James Beard Award, it is sort of like the Emmys red carpet moment for culinary stuff. And it's pretty incredible to be able to win and earn that. The last time Arizona won a James Beard Award was over 8 years ago, up until this moment. So it's like a pretty rare moment. It's like a lifetime achievement award kind of thing. It's super cool. We all love fried bread. We all love everything fried dough, period. But it has an interesting plot twist story that I want to share with you too. It's like we have this contribution economically of like an interesting cuisine, but also too, it was kind of born out of not a great story. It was the Trail of Tears. we, as an indigenous culture, we're just only given flour, sugar, salt, and lard by the government to survive a 300-mile trek across the desert. And moving forward, here we are winning a classic award from the James Beard Foundation. So it's an interesting context of like how our culture fits into sort of economics. Next slide, please. This one is a little bit more, I don't know, pat on the back kind of moment, but I'll take it. So as Nick had mentioned, my company, Cooperative, is an advertising agency. We work in advertising, public relations, branding, all across the board. Very proud to say that our Native-owned and gay-owned company has been ranked and awarded the #1 best place to work in all of Arizona by the Phoenix Business Journal. And not just like in my industry, like beating out like GoDaddy, all that stuff. I'm super happy to be able and honored to be working with these awesome clients that we get to really contribute our superpowers to. So not only are we producing products, we're also driving economic engines for other clients as well too. And actually, seeing that slide deck in the beginning of this conversation, many of you actually are clients too. Next slide, please. And then in terms of like economic contribution to fashion of all things, I'm actually wearing one of OXDX's shirts right now, but they're a pretty cool company based here in Tempe. I live in downtown Tempe. Has a really strong social media presence, a really strong social societal message that they press forward. And yeah, like it says in the slide there, everything from like Forbes to GQ, these guys, this whole team is super awesome. So not only are we contributing to food, to fashion, to publicity, I mean, it's across the board. And I think there's just not a lot of visibility around that. And I think that's a big part of my contribution, I hope, to contribute to the Chamber of Commerce as well too. Next slide, please. And even on the side of things of influencers, you should all follow the Fancy Navajo. She's super rad. She's a colleague of mine, but she is contracted with Fry's Food and drugstores to do all of their advertising and promotions. She's an influencer in that sense, and she's really broken barriers, I think, for our community, and just incredible in just fun, compelling content. And I love that she's Navajo. I'm Navajo, by the way. Next slide. And then the context of this conversation too is like talking more about sort of like what are we doing with COVID. And so I worked personally with my agency very closely with a lot of other partners as well too, to pen the actual official reopening Arizona guide for restaurants. So anywhere you eat right now, any of those policies that you've seen of like, even like no matter where you are in the steps, everything from like hand sanitizing to servers wearing masks, all that stuff, like we helped design, and I'll take the credit, like it's literally like my name at the bottom of that byline. You can see my logo there. Like Native Americans have helped to sort of really shape how we create this reopening plan and strategy for all of the restaurants, things that we love to do. We want to get back to it as soon as possible. And so this guide actually was then taken and copied by the National Restaurant Association for all states across 50 states. So like Native-owned businesses have been influencing the reopening of restaurants across the nation post the peak COVID moment. Next slide, please. So other evidence of our impact is it's kind of a neat little weird fact is that this is not about politics, but it's an important fact to note that 80% of those votes in this last election were toward Biden, and that easily swung the pendulum. So if we would have subtracted those, that would have been a very different political situation. It's interesting to see how many newly registered Native voters have truly impacted this past election. And I don't care where people sit in terms of politics. It's just an interesting fact to talk about, like how our economic impact is getting stronger and ever more important. Our vaccination rate was the highest in the US in the beginning. Also, too, something to note about the pandemic is that we had the highest tested positive rate. I'll kind of wrap this up here. I know we're short on time, but so our community is very based on, like you can imagine, not just in Maricopa, but also outside too. Outside of Maricopa, we have limited resources, access to groceries, water. We don't have like Uber Eats and things like that in more rural areas. So our positive test rates were very much more higher because we all have to go to the same water source. Like we need to get water for the week, so we go to the well. That's like sort of like a gathering spot, sort of a hot spot, if you will. So it's been complicated, but also too, we're the first ones to just really dive in and get in there and get that vaccine and snuff it out. So next slide, please. I'm really proud to say, under the leadership of President Nick, we've got a really aggressive calendar ahead of us. We're doing as much as we can digitally to create a lot of content for our business owners, our business leaders here. And I want the group here to understand too, our constituents, our members are not a traditional set that are, here on the call. It can be like, sometimes like jewelry makers who rely on a flea market to be able to sell their goods. Well, now we have to switch that to digital, and like there's complications with that. Same problems that everyone's having right now, but just a different context for sure. But yeah, so we've got a pretty robust calendar ahead of us, thanks to the leadership from Nick. And next slide, please. So a couple things. So in our case, we do need support for our very, very mixed type of business types. Again, like everything from like a roadside stand out of the back of the truck to DDC, which owns 8 different entities that runs both government IT and natural gas resources. It's a pretty diverse mix. So one good resource that everyone could take a peek at to sort of see the flex of our contribution to the community is rising.org, res being the short form word of like reservation. But yeah, so that's a great resource if anyone is here willing to explore a little bit more on how to support Indigenous cultures here within your communities. Yeah, and I again, I appreciate the time that you've given us. I do feel like our elected officials have done a really great job of supporting our communities, but there's always more to be done for all communities, period. And I'm really grateful for the time. So next slide. So thanks so much. Definitely hit us up, both Nick and myself. And I really appreciate the time again. And it's not easy being an elected official. It's not easy to carve out this time. But I really, truly do. I am grateful for your time, and thanks so much. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mazur and Mr. Largo. That was a very impressive and very insightful presentation. So all the information was really great to hear about. Are there any questions from the membership at this time regarding this presentation?
Mayor Hermosillo, Chair Hermosillo, this is David Luna. First of all, Ty, thank you for that wonderful presentation. I'm very impressed, and I appreciate that you're taking this digital platform to reach many of our Native American members. How are you dealing with issues as it relates to broadband deployment and the digital divide, especially in many of our Native American communities? Are you working in cooperation with companies to try to assist in that effort?
Love that question. So for context for everybody, like in rural communities, we just don't have access to, a cell phone signal. It's a true actual issue that we are dealing with. A good example is Rising, that organization that I shared. We developed an app that was asynchronous. So like whenever people, we built it after their patterns of shopping, meaning like they need to go to the city to like get groceries, go to Walmart to get groceries, or whatever, like their chapter house, which is like their local smaller micro version of a government. The app itself would sync. So we are doing our best to create workarounds around people's access to technology. And then also too, I'm proud of, as a Dene member, Navajo, yes, like our Navajo president is actually working currently right now on a pretty aggressive agenda to deliver 5G to more rural communities without having an environmental impact. It's a very fine line of how we do that, running power and service and all that stuff. But it's a challenge, and it's never not going to be a challenge. Honestly, you can't have it both ways. You can't have access, but also like not have an environmental impact. There's a sort of a compromise that happens there, and so I'm grateful that our president currently of the Navajo Nation is really attacking that. It's not a very comfortable or popular thing to tackle, but honestly, it's something that needs to be done. And you're absolutely right to bring that up as an area of like question, like how are we going to do this? Well, we're working on it. as a short answer.
Great, thank you so much for that response. Are there any other questions? All right, hearing none, this item is on the agenda for information and discussion only, so we will go ahead and move on with agenda item 6. But again, I want to thank Mr. Mazur and Mr. Largo for that wonderful presentation. All right, the next item on the agenda is an update on Arizona tourism from the Arizona Office of Tourism. Becky Blaine, Deputy Director of AOT, will provide this update.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me today. I am going to share with you our most current program information, how we've pivoted during the pandemic, and show you how deeply connected we are to Arizona's economy. Next slide, please. So the Arizona Office of Tourism is the only statewide public agency responsible for marketing Arizona as a travel destination. And we produce a variety of year-round global marketing efforts to inspire visitation to our state. Tourism is a highly competitive industry because of the benefits of visitor spending, so it's critical that AOT works with our statewide partners to ensure Arizona is seen as a relevant travel destination against direct competitors such as California, Florida, Texas, Utah, and Colorado. There's more than 90 cities and towns and 22 tribes in our state, and most of them can say that tourism plays a major role in their economic development efforts. And it's one of the few industries that positively impacts all 15 counties in Arizona. We refer to our statewide partners as DMOs, Destination Marketing Organizations. So you'll hear me reference DMOs throughout the presentation. Next slide, please. The tourism industry was one of the hardest hit during the pandemic. And last year, Arizona welcomed 32.1 million overnight domestic and international visitors, which represents nearly 15 million fewer visitors, a 30% drop over 2019. International visitation was down 88%, with most of our visitors coming in January, February, and March before the shutdown. You can see here our top origin states. They've remained strong over the years, and we're able to target visitors in specific regions of those states that meet our visitor demographics and show a high propensity to travel. Next slide, please. Visitor spending. As a result of falling visitation during 2020, spending decreased to $15 billion, down more than $25 billion over 2019. Here and nationally, travel spending fell further than visitation, and our spending loss is right in line with the US average of 42% less than 2019 levels. Even though we experienced a decrease in spending, the industry still generated more than $2 billion in taxes that contributed directly to public programs such as health, education, and safety. Next slide, please. This is the visitor spending activity that we're seeing at this particular point in time. The blue line is 2019, the green line is 2021. And as you can see, there's some parallel activity to 2019, but we are not back to those levels just yet. And in July, we were only 2% down from 2019 spending levels. The demand for rural destinations and wide open spaces are still high. Business travel and weekday occupancy is still low, but we are working with our statewide partners to address those issues with our Arizona Meetings campaign. Next slide, please. The pandemic devastated business operations, as you know, for hotels, restaurants, and attractions across the state, and leading the industry's comeback became a top priority for our agency. To do this, we created a truly inclusive industry strategic recovery plan that is led by AOT and works in collaboration with many of our stakeholders across the state. We can proudly say that we're one of the first state tourism offices to initiate a recovery plan of this magnitude. And it also isn't about just one tactic, but instead includes multiple initiatives led by cross-functional teams, and it complements our typical program of work. Next slide, please. As part of the recovery plan, AOT launched Rediscover Arizona. The campaign's creative showcased Arizona's amazing imagery along with inspiring slogans such as Rediscover Wide Open Spaces. The purpose of the campaign was to inspire travel and encourage people to plan a trip to Arizona when they were ready. It was also about educating them on health and safety guidelines. Our COVID-19 travel information page was our #1 page for over 12 months, as we constantly updated it with the latest guidance from the CDC and Department of Health Services, and we kept a list of attractions that are open and closed during this time to encourage travelers to plan ahead. We used consumer sentiment and public health parameters to monitor the impact of the campaign and to guide our marketing decisions. What started as a recovery campaign has become our primary national campaign, and we've been testing it out internationally as well via paid social media. We also extended the campaign timeframe to run through this past summer, and our intent with the longer campaign run was to keep Arizona top of mind as the competition against other destinations is increasing rapidly. According to our ad effectiveness study, Arizona's campaign has been a success, and the Rediscover campaign influenced more than 430,000 Arizona trips and generated nearly $750 million in visitor spending. And now with the exciting news that our international borders will be reopening next month, we've already launched our campaigns with Brand USA in Canada and Mexico, and our European markets launch next. In fact, during the pandemic, social media advertising was so inexpensive that we kept our German and English-speaking inspiration running across UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. We tested the content, we found itineraries and photos that resonated with travelers, and we monitored social media sentiment across all the markets. Overwhelmingly, we are seeing positive responses and pent-up travel demand. Next slide, please. Meetings and business travel, as we know, is an important visitor segment for not only our urban areas, but also many rural communities. And it was one of the hardest hit, and recovery has been slow. With that in mind, we launched our multi-channel Arizona Means Business campaign last fall. We also created arizonameetings.com as a landing page and hub with safe meeting guidance, as well as destination information and links to each of the DMO's RFP pages. With an initial $1 million investment of CARES funding, AOT provided fully funded co-op advertising opportunities to support 11 DMO partners. And our second campaign just launched this summer and will run through October 31st. This Arizona branded umbrella campaign will be a long-term strategy to support the DMOs and continue to keep Arizona top of mind with our meeting planners. Next slide, please. Our AZ Tourism Jobs campaign first launched in March of 2020 as a resource in both English and Spanish, and we were able to place a few hundred workers immediately that were being laid off into sectors that were urgently hiring, such as grocery, delivery, and healthcare. Now that tourism is increasing and we need to attract people back to the industry and seek out new workers as well that might not have considered tourism and hospitality as a career field before, we now do this with a skills-based matching system. We created partnerships with the workforce organizations Pipeline AZ and Arizona at Work and launched a robust PR and digital campaign this summer. We also created a virtual hiring event in June that kicked off the partnership and introduced the new platform. The results of just our one-day hiring event are on the screen. Our aztourismjobs.com page will provide access to the pipeline and resources for people looking to enter or return to the tourism workforce. And this will be the ongoing employment platform we promote in future campaigns. But this was just our short-term solution. Our long-term vision includes working with the Arizona Hotel and Lodging Association and Local First Arizona to create a talent pipeline management system for the Arizona tourism industry using the federal TPM program. This will fall under the Visit Arizona Initiative Grants Program that Governor Ducey announced in July. Next slide, please. One of our most important marketing programs is our Rural and Tribal Cooperative Program. Participating communities can partner with AOT on marketing efforts to promote their destinations. This year, we have more than 30 communities participating in the program, and we have raised our match from $50,000 per community to $75,000 per community. Our total match will be over $1 million this year to support rural and tribal destinations across the state. It's a fantastic multi-channel program that generates real results and helps communities reach target markets that are important and relevant to them. Next slide, please. We also ran an in-state campaign that was geo-targeted to just residents of Arizona, and it ran from November to April. We had a series of paid social media, digital banners, and billboards on major freeways, all with the intention of encouraging Arizona residents to drink local wine and visit our amazing wine regions. It was one of our most successful in-state campaigns, with over 50% of consumers in our ad effectiveness survey recalling our ads and stated that it made them excited to try Arizona wines and plan a trip. Next slide, please. We've adjusted every segment of our business, including how we work with journalists and tour operators. Virtual destination trainings and trade shows became a normal way for us to conduct business during the pandemic. We collaborated with Utah, Colorado, and Nevada to prepare self-driving itineraries, which are being used in joint marketing initiatives internationally. During COVID, we've held hundreds of virtual destination trainings in all of our international markets. And in fiscal year 21, trained or met with over 10,000 travel agents and tour operators to prepare them to sell Arizona. We continued our work with domestic and international journalists. And as a result, in 2020, nearly 900 positive articles about Arizona have been published throughout the world. Last week, we attended U.S. Travel Association's IPW. It's our largest international inbound B2B trade show hosted in the United States, and we held over 100 pre-scheduled sales appointments in 3 days. International visitation is big business, and for Arizona specifically, international travel accounts for 15% of all visitation, which was just over 6 million visitors in 2019, and 4.1 billion in international visitor spending. And we're working diligently to ensure that we recover this segment of our business. Next slide, please. A new program that we're very excited about is our Appreciate AZ program. This is our state's new brand for responsible outdoor recreation and destination stewardship. We forged a partnership with the Leave No Trace Center for Outdoor Ethics to promote sustainable tourism, a program that we had begun prior to the pandemic, but one that we fast-tracked when we started to see the effects of those unfamiliar with the outdoors wanting to recreate during the pandemic. From planning ahead and respecting wildlife to fire safety, the principles serve as a complete guidebook for a sustainable Arizona adventure. Next slide, please. Once we finalized our principles, we built this digital campaign, which we featured in Arizona and targeted cities throughout the United States. Some of these placements were also in national publications such as National Geographic and Outdoor Magazine. We're planning to launch another paid campaign to support this program soon. Next slide, please. To further support the program, we built the Appreciate AZ toolkits. It includes everything our partners and visitor centers need to promote the program. The material is free to anyone that wants it and can be ordered on tourism.az.gov. Next slide, please. In July, Governor Ducey announced $101 million in federal American Rescue Plan funding to launch the Visit Arizona Initiative, a program designed to increase visitation and accelerate economic recovery. Within that program, over $60 million is for grants. We're excited to announce that first set of grants was just awarded and the press release went out today. Over $10 million in round one, just in program number one. We have 3 programs in total with competitive application processes. More information can be found on tourism.az.gov/grants. Next slide, please. We have many other consumer-facing resources available for people to learn about how to travel in Arizona, and you can always find more information on visitarizona.com. Next slide, please. and stay connected to us. If you're interested in our agency and the work that we're doing, we have a weekly industry newsletter called Tourism Tuesday, and you can subscribe on tourism.az.gov, our B2B site, and receive updates on all of our marketing programs and sales efforts. Next slide. And this is my contact information. Well, thank you so much for your time and attention today. I'm happy to take any questions that anyone might have.
Thank you, Ms. Blaine. Are there any questions from the membership at this time regarding this presentation?
Did you say, Becky, thank you for the presentation. Did you say that the grants are open to any municipality or any nonprofit or any organization in the Valley, correct?
So each program has different guidelines, and they're all listed on that grants page on tourism.az.gov/grants. So we encourage everyone to take a look and have their municipality or destination marketing organization take a look and see what programs they might qualify for.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there any other questions?
This is Sintra. Just not so much a question, but more of a compliment. I was traveling this summer in Washington State, and I was on a ferry heading over to one of the national parks, and I'm looking at all the brochures, and I ended up coming across this and this, and I was so excited. So great job in getting the information out to other states, neighboring states, and really, and then of course I looked for information on the West Valley, which I was also pleasantly surprised to see the Wigwam and other facilities that we have. I did notice that the Arizona 2021 really didn't have anything sectioned off on the sports and on the sports piece, and I didn't know if that was because of the pandemic and the fact that sports were a little bit in the balance at that moment. But in the Phoenix Visit Phoenix piece, it is in there. But I would say that if it's not in the 21-22 edition, sports is back and alive, and so we should definitely be promoting that. Selfishly, we have a lot of those facilities in the West Valley.
Yep, absolutely. We do quite a bit of work with sports industry, and a lot of that is on visitarizona.com as well. As we receive almost 400,000 hits on our website every month. And we work very closely with Julie. I know she's our next presenter at the Raceway and the stadium and all of the industry folks for Cactus League and things like that. And we're preparing to host Super Bowl again in 2023, which we're really excited about. But that state travel guide that you held up, just the newest version just came out about 3 weeks ago. So we produce it on an annual basis, and it comes out in September. And so it's now available on our website for order as well. So we do have quite a bit of information in there about upcoming events.
Awesome. Great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions or comments at this time?
Real quick. Hey, it's Ty from All Collective.
Hi.
And, the American Indian Chamber of Commerce. I want to also just double down and say, like, I had the opportunity to travel the country during the shutdown and stuff, and just really, I don't know, just explore and be outside and distance, of course. But it was cool to see a lot of the work from my home states out there, and it was very visible. So like, it was a proud moment for me. I was like, oh, cool, like Arizona's doing it right. So it's cool. So just shout out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Love all the shout outs. And this item is on the agenda for information and discussion only. So we will move forward with agenda item 7. The next item on the agenda is a report on NASCAR and the Phoenix Raceway. We have Julie Giese, president at Phoenix Raceway, who will provide this report.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here, and I will echo the shout outs. Can't thank the team at AOT enough for all they've done working with us over the last year here at Phoenix Raceway, and just from a tourism perspective in general. So thank you. I am delighted to be here. I'm Julie Giese. I'm the president of Phoenix Raceway, going on my 4th year now, believe it or not, already out here in the Valley, and excited to share some updates with you on Phoenix Raceway. I will preface there's some construction happening below my office, so if there's any distraction or ambient noise, my apologies. But look forward to just sharing some information about NASCAR Championship Weekend and the partnership that we have across the Valley, and specifically with the city of Avondale. So we can jump into the next slide. So I know a lot of you are very familiar with Phoenix Raceway. This is always a very impactful image. This is an aerial shot from NASCAR weekend in November of 2019. Prior to hosting the championship, this was what race weekend looks like for us. We have over 5,000 campsites. We do become our own little city. Campers we will start to welcome in less than a month. They'll move in on November 1st and we'll be here for the entire week. If you jump to the next slide, we're a NASCAR facility. We're a racetrack. We have confirmed our schedule for 2022 with, once again, those two hallmark NASCAR events in March and NASCAR Championship Weekend returning once again in 2022 next November. But when we renovated the facility over 3 years ago now, and it's hard to believe it's been that long, honestly. But the whole goal of that was twofold. One is to continue to increase and enhance that fan experience when you come to Phoenix Raceway, but two, to really diversify the types of events that we can host here at Phoenix Raceway. We will always be a racetrack, that is who we are, but want to create other events that we can host new people out to the property throughout the year. You can see on the right side of the screen some of our rental events. We're active over 200 days a year out at the property. In fact, right now, Chevrolet is on property with dealer meetings for several weeks. We've worked with Sintra and the team at Westmark to host State of the State. City of Avondale has held State of the City, Best of the West, a lot of different events. And then we most recently held the Off-Road Expo, which was a first-time event for us a couple weeks ago. So we're going to continue to diversify our portfolio as we move forward. If you move ahead, I want to just talk a little bit about who comes to Phoenix Raceway and our attendees. I think this is always a slide that surprises a lot of people, and the next slide will be as well. But we are obviously 50% of our fans come from in the state of Arizona, but 50% of our fans come from out of the state. And they, as I mentioned, a lot of them are moving in on Monday of race week and spending a full week with us. They are a younger demographic. You can see over half of them are in the 18 to 44 age bracket. One thing I think that always does surprise people is the 45% male, 56% female from an attendee perspective. And with that average household income of over $90,000. If you jump to the next slide, this, I think, really tells the story of Phoenix Raceway and is a great follow-up to Becky's presentation from a tourism perspective. You can see over 34% of our fans are coming from over 500 miles away. And when you look at this heat map, we have representation in all 50 states from an attendee perspective, from a ticket holder perspective, as well as a number of countries. Still, as you can see, very heavy in the southwest, but we do have a lot of pockets in different areas. And when you look at our March NASCAR weekend and our November NASCAR weekend, you see these change a little bit. We do see a lot of synergies with the spring training teams that are in town in the March event. And then November, I think, as we continue to host that NASCAR championship weekend, we're going to see even more broad spectrum across the United States, because it is NASCAR's biggest event, and it is a bucket list event. We move to the next slide. I mentioned that we finished a renovation 3 years ago. It was a $178 million renovation, all our own private dollars. This was something we basically changed pretty much everything about the facility with the exception of the campgrounds and the racetrack itself. We are the first motorsports venue to have Wi-Fi throughout the entire facility. And that is definitely a feat in itself, given the size of the facility that we have. But the whole focus of the project was really to, like I said, recreate that fan experience and make it experience for anybody. If you're an avid race fan and you want to sit and watch every lap of the race, you have that ability. Or if you're more of a casual fan and want to have some social experiences with friends and family, we have that available to you as well. I want to take you through just a few photos to show you what the facility looks like. If you haven't been out here recently, would love the opportunity to host you and show off the venue. I think the thing that everyone always says to me is you drive over Avondale Boulevard and up to the track, and you see the track kind of right there tucked in at the base of the Estrella Mountains. It's a beautiful facility. So if you jump to the next slide, you can see what that view looks like now for our fans. So one of the main priorities for us was shade. A lot of our seats in the past were south facing, and if you're sitting in them for 3 hours with that sun right at you, it's just not the greatest experience. So we extended the existing grandstand all the way over to the dogleg, which is what we say the most exciting turn in NASCAR. It's right after the start finish line. So as you can see, this was at the start of the race in, I think it's our March event, and you can see even at the start of the race, a majority of our fans are already in shade. And as the day wore on, everybody, with the exception of a very small percentage of our fans, were in that shaded area. You can also see that in the infield, right behind that O'Reilly logo, is the new Fan Shield infield experience, which really takes that fan experience to a whole new level. And I have a few photos that can show you a little bit more about what that looks like. But if you jump to the next slide, this is one of our entry statements. Again, created a facade, a very nice welcoming statement. So when you're driving by the facility on Jimmy Johnson Drive, you have that great visual. One thing I did want to note, I was part of the construction team as we were working on Phoenix Raceway, and being mindful about reusing materials was really important to us. So those vertical planks that you can see along the tucked in the middle of the grandstands, the white and yellow, are actually our old seat planks. So those were the benches that our fans used to sit on when they came to the races. We were able to repurpose those to create a nice facade on the back of the grandstands that mimics the Estrella Mountains. Jump to the next slide. This is our infield garage experience. This is the garage is an area that fans want to be able to get into. It's just like going into the locker room prior to the start of a race or prior to the start of a game. So the garage was always an area that fans couldn't get into. So when we renovated the facility, we wanted to make sure that we created an experience that allowed fans to be part of that. Now you see they can walk into those garages. That's all that's separating them between the teams working on the cars. And their walkway is a waist-high fence. Great experience, immerses them and lets fans really see behind the scenes at our events. And then if you jump to the next slide, the celebration at the end of the race was another big fan moment for us, and we wanted to create this really unique experience that fans could be part of. A lot of times when you win the race, it's industry people only in that Ruoff Mortgage Victory Lane. So we actually created this Victory Lane first and foremost to figure out how many fans we could get in there. And then from there, we worked on how to get the car and the team in. So it's a great experience celebrating the winner of our race. And again, there's not one like it. Our drivers tell us it's by far the most exciting victory lane that they have in the sport. So if we move to the next slide, as I mentioned, Sintra has worked with us on using now called the Barn. This is a 20,000 square foot venue that we actually partnered with Jeff Gordon. He's a NASCAR Hall of Fame driver on, and it's a beautiful space, multi-purpose facility that allows us to do a lot of different things throughout the year. I mentioned Chevy being on property. They're using it for dealer meetings. And every day I've gone in there and it's a different setup, a lot of flex space, a lot of different things that you can do throughout the year. On race weekend, this turns into hospitality during the day and turns into a party at night. We've got live bands in there for our campers. While they're on property, they can head on down and enjoy the live music. And then if you move to the next slide, I talked about NASCAR Championship Weekend. So this year will be our second year hosting NASCAR's championship event. NASCAR moved its championship to Phoenix Raceway last year after 18 years in Miami. That's a big deal. And to get NASCAR to move that race to our facility, we're incredibly proud. And part of the reason that the decision was made was because of the community support and the fact that we live in a community in a state that knows how to put on big events. Becky talked about the Super Bowl coming, and we've seen that. Last year was our first race with the champion, or first time with the championship. Definitely not the championship we were all expecting when we announced this in March of 2019. But even still, in the middle of a pandemic, the amount of support that we saw from our community, from our business partners, from everybody was absolutely impactful, and our industry saw it. And so I want to make sure I spend a little bit of time talking about that specifically with what Avondale has done. So if you jump to the next slide, we've worked with the Avondale Economic Development Team and the entire city staff. Honestly, they're absolutely tremendous partners with us. They created a DMO last year, and we partnered with them knowing that we were going to have limited capacity for the championship race last year. We created a watch party down at the Boulevard so more people could be part of the event in a very safe environment. It allowed us then to engage with different businesses to be part of it, and still allow our fans to feel like that they were part of championship weekend, knowing this was the first time we were hosting it. Now, then if you look ahead to 2021, if you jump to the next slide, we're taking that to a whole new level, working with the Discover Avondale, which is the new branding around Avondale's destination DMO. And basically what we're going to do, we're working on a lot of different things to enhance that NASCAR fan experience. Our campers will have the ability to visit a number of different businesses in Avondale through a bus route that we're working on. And just really, those campers, as I mentioned, they move in on Monday of race week and are in here the entire week, and they're looking for things to do. And we want them to go out and visit our businesses. We want them to go to different restaurants and everything else, and experience everything that the Valley and the city of Avondale, the West Valley, have to offer. So we're really excited to continue to ramp that up. And then just on the next two slides, if you want to jump ahead to the next one, just some different elements. And I know a lot of you on this meeting participate in this in different ways in your cities. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for your continued support. You can see Mayor Ken with the checkerboard crosswalks. We were able to take the NASCAR haulers down Avondale Boulevard last year on their way to the racetrack. And then on the next slide, just some additional activations. The upper left is inside the My Place Hotel, some welcome signage. The Parks and Rec team at Avondale took our NASCAR Championship Weekend logo and stenciled that at Festival Fields on the grass. NBC covered it and showed, again, that tremendous support that we have throughout the Valley for NASCAR Championship Weekend. So that is a very quick overview of NASCAR Championship Weekend. I would be remiss if I don't mention, we just announced that we are sold out for Sunday's race. It's the earliest sellout in our history. And we are really, really looking forward to welcoming our race fans back to our community and showcasing everything that the city of Avondale and the West Valley and our entire state have to offer. So with that, again, thank you for your continued support. If there's anything that we can do to support you, please don't hesitate to ask.
Thank you so much, Ms. Giese. That is such great information and positive news for our committee, and it's just so great to have this gem in our backyard. So thank you so much for the presentation. Are there any questions from the membership at this time?
Yeah, I had a quick question, Julie. Thank you so much for everything you're doing at the Raceway there. Is there any other cities that are partnering with you to promote their cities in the West Valley for events and things that are bookended around the NASCAR races at all?
So most of the West Valley cities are working with us on different welcome signage and messaging throughout their cities when our fans arrive into town. We are working with the city of Avondale at the Wigwam for their annual golf tournament, which we've moved into that championship week. From billboards with Glendale, Peoria, everyone has been jumping into support. I would say we'll always, if there's other opportunities or ideas or things that people would like to do, we are always all ears. Anything we can do to support the cities here and get the word out about opportunities, please let us know. We would love to have that further conversation.
Yeah, I think it's just a great idea to help you guys as much as possible and then help out the rest of the West Valley cities as much as possible as well, just to continue it or even have things beforehand when they come in and things that make them stay longer potentially as well in the West Valley. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other questions?
Just an incredible compliment to Julie. I don't think that we really realize and talk about the fact that we actually have with the championship race, the Super Bowl of NASCAR. I mean, that's pretty huge. And it's not, once every years, it's with us. And so I really applaud the city of Avondale for all they do to support this race. They were so innovative last year with the watch party. And they're actually they're a Best of the West finalist for that project. So we're really excited about that. And the other thing is, like Julie said, the track is there year round for your use. And we've used it several times for several different reasons. And it's just an incredible opportunity to go out there. You drive across that bridge and you're just in awe at what it looks like. And so anyway, I just highly encourage you to do that if you want the wow factor for your guests. Thanks, Julie.
Thank you, Sintra. And I would say too, the championship isn't guaranteed. We are confirmed through 2022, but it is a year-to-year basis. I do strongly believe one of our differentiating factors is the local community support. We put a playbook together after every event to showcase to our leadership just how much this community does to support the event and is excited to have this event here.
Great, thank you again. Any other questions or comments before we move forward? All right, hearing none. This item is on the agenda for information and discussion only. Thank you so much, Ms. Giese, again for that presentation. All right, the next agenda item is an update on the upcoming Arizona Mega Region webinar. I will provide additional information about the event. As announced at the last meeting, the Arizona Mega Region Council did not meet at the League of Arizona Cities and Towns as it convened on hosting a virtual event this month. We encourage you all to attend the webinar titled Moving the Mega Region Forward. The event is scheduled for Friday, October 22nd, 2021 from 2 to 3:30 p.m. The webinar features the Honorable Christopher Lando, former U.S. Ambassador to Mexico, the delegates of the Quebec government offices in Los Angeles and Mexico City, along with a special message from the newly elected government of the state of Sonora. A discussion on ADOT's binational freight corridor study and a presentation on the mega region film industry's marketing efforts will also be provided. The webinar is open to the public and registration is now open. English, Spanish interpretation services will be available. And for this, for more information, please contact Elsa Baljan, member of our MAG staff. Are there any questions from the membership on this item? All right, hearing none, this item is on the agenda for information and discussion only. We will move forward with the next item, which is number 9. Are there any requests by membership for an item on a future agenda? Hearing none, we will move forward with item 10. Are there any announcements from the membership? I'm seeing head nods no. All right, that means that this meeting is now adjourned. The next meeting of the MAG Economic Development Committee will be on December 7th, 2021. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending this meeting and look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye. Take care.